Hi, this is Mike, and this quick tip tutorial is going to cover how to start a Spriter project from scratch. So the very first thing you're going to need to do is set up a folder that you can name whatever you want. I called mine Spriter Project. And then within that folder, you can put the images you're going to manipulate to create your animations, or you can put subfolders in which you'll organize your images for your sub-animations. And for this tutorial, we're going to animate a little hopper character and a little impact effect, which is very hard to see because it's a white effect on a white background, but you'll see it better in Spriter. Okay, now that we have our folder set up and our images ready to go, we need to actually go into Spriter and choose File, New Project, and then this dialog is going to pop up. Click OK, and all we need to do is find our, in my case it's on my desktop, find the actual Spriter project folder, and click Select Folder. And now we're ready to go. And most importantly, to get started, you see up here in this palette we have our images accessible and ready to use for the hopper and for the impact effect. And before we get started using these images, a very good practice is to double click on each image, and in this case, if we'd like, we can use these quick assign buttons here to make things quick. This one allows me to put the pivot point directly in the center of the image. So I'm going to click OK. And now if I want to, since I already did this one and put it in the center, and all of these images are the same size in fact, I can copy the default pivot point that I just added to this image, and then I can select all the rest of the images and then paste it. So now to start animating, all I have to do is drag my first image onto the canvas, and then I'm going to go further along on the timeline here, and I'm going to start clicking and dragging and then hold Shift, because Shift is going to allow me to scale and keep the same aspect ratio. I'm also going to use, I can either click and drag like this, but in my case for accuracy I can either type, for example I can go -52 for the Y, so that brought it up. I want to go even higher, so we're going to say -252. Or I could use the arrow keys like this to move something accurately. And I'm also going to rotate the image a bit. So now you can see if I drag along the timeline, I have the image rotating and enlarging. So I'm just going to start scrolling along here in the timeline and pick a spot where I want it to change to the next image. And I can come up here and I can right click and choose Replace Selected Sprite Image. So now I'm on the second image here, and I'm going to go a little further. I'm going to go here and right click and choose Replace, and then again and Replace, and now I'm going to bring the opacity all the way down. So now you can see we have this effect that's not only moving and rotating and changing opacity at the end, but it's also swapping from one image to another. Let's go ahead and rename that entity to Impacts, and then we'll rename this animation. I'm just left double clicking on each of these to rename them. We'll call this Impact 1. And now we're going to start animating the hopper. So I'm going to create a new entity, which is this little icon here. And you'll see it creates a new entity and a new initial animation. So we're going to call this hopper. And we'll just call this idle. And remember, it's a really good practice to set default pivot points first for all of your images. And in this case, because we have sort of an actual character made out of body part images, it's much better to put very sensible pivot points where the actual limb or body part would naturally rotate around. So in this case, I'm putting this little pivot point right here, and I'm just going to quickly go through. So now that those are quickly set, I can start to actually assemble my character on the canvas. So again, I just start dragging my images out, and you make sure whenever you start assembling your initial character for your animation, make sure you're at the very beginning of the timeline. Current time should be 0. So now that I have this image out, I'm going to start adding the other images I need. So here's one of the leg images, and then I can drag out another leg image, and I need to reverse this one, so I go to X scale and then make it -1, and that will flip it. And then I need to do the same thing with this leg, and now the character is fully assembled. but not yet ready to animate because this character has so many parts, so we're actually going to use bones. And just hold the Alt key and then left click and drag to start creating my bones. And I can then reposition my bone wherever I want once it's created. And then with this bone still selected, I'm just going to start holding Alt again and then left click and drag for this limb. I hold Alt again, I left click and drag. So now I've got the bone for those legs set. Now I have to go back to selecting this main parent bone because I want this leg bone to be a child of the main parent bone and not a child of this little leg piece here. So I make sure I select the main bone, I hold Alt and start left clicking and dragging, and then do the same thing again, and he's all set as far as bones, but now we have to assign the images themselves to the bones, and that's as simple as clicking on a bone and then holding the B key, just think B for bone, and then you click as many of the images you need to that need to be assigned to that main bone. And then you select your next bone and you hold B and just left click on that image, and I'm just going to go through all of the bones and all of the images that way to get everything assigned, and just that quickly we have the whole thing assigned to its bones. And we're coming near the end of this quick tip tutorial. Obviously, to start animating the character, all you have to do is go to a new spot in the timeline and then move and rotate bones as you see fit to create your new position. And then obviously dragging along the timeline is a good way to see what's happening in your animation. And make sure to check out the other quick tip videos, which will show you more advanced features like inverse kinematics and other things that can make your life or animating much easier. And that's it. Thanks a lot for watching.